NVK shirtless, Josh. Should we join him here?
I wish if I was sitting on a beach, yes, I would join him. But I'm in like a 60-degree basement right now while it's like 30 degrees outside.
Well,
so
you get hard nips.
That's true.
You're right.
But I was just in Mexico to a little resort Dan recommended, and I show up at this resort on like 10 o'clock at night. It's like a tropical thunderstorm going on. Everything's wet. We're walking around trying to get the lay of the land, and this old man right in front of me slips and falls and smashes his head on the ground. I'm like, I can't escape this shit. This is what I do every day, like pick up old people, and this guy's got like a 2-inch laceration on his head. He's like, so I'm like, I'm not taking my shirt off. I take his shirt off and wrap his head, and I'm like, all right, man, that's about all I can do for you. Let's hope they've got something decent in Mexico to staple you up. Good luck.
Dude, can you imagine how
Israeli guys, man? You gotta
I know,
bring
right?
your own Israeli guys.
Can you imagine how hot and bothered your wife would have been early on that trip, Josh, though, if you just ripped your shirt off and used it as a trauma dressing?
Hey, honey, just saved a guy. I might have a little HIV now, but I saved a guy.
Now, this guy predated HIV.
Yeah, those adults only resorts, they're great, but it's a geriatric fest too.
There's quite a bit of that.
And they're all, was it one of the nude ones?
Not that I saw. There were a lot of thongs there though, and it was hit and miss on that front as well. Like there was either like you should be wearing that thong or you should absolutely not be wearing that thong. There was no intermediate.
It's equal opportunity for the thong, man, in those places.
Oh yeah, and even dudes were wearing them, which is I mean, you can identify the Europeans very quickly. Yeah,
banana hammocks galore when I was there. Yeah, he went to the same resort I went to. I went on vacation in November. He went right after me. Good spot. Got the job done, right?
You gotta know somebody who's been there, because I've been to these. Like I went to one of the Dominican a few years, well, like 5 years ago, and I got sick as hell there. I mean, I was putting on my child's diapers at night because I just couldn't hold it in. It was horrible. Like that happens to you once, you make sure you get a reference for the next one.
You know, the solution for, because like we live, people who live in sort of boreal North America, there is no bugs, right? I mean, like nothing fucking survives the winter. So like, you go to the jungle, I mean, like the bugs are gonna get to you. So yeah, exactly. Shit definitely happens.
It does happen.
You just no food, man, just honey and lemon and salt water. That's it. And
it can be gnarly. I had Montezuma's Revenge coming back from Mexico years ago, and it was what came out of my asshole has not been replicated again. It was unbelievable. That's the first asshole reference of the episode, but I think every time you've been on here, we find a way to talk about buttholes.
You guys really bring out the assholes when I come on the show.
It just happens kind of naturally, I don't even know.
Yeah. Oh well.
Wait, so where are you? You on vacation? You there for a while?
No, Bitcoin Jungle, man, came for the conference.
Heck yeah. How's it been?
Hot. So the cool thing about Bitcoin Jungle, for people that don't know, is so we did NOSTR last year, right? It was the first conference they had there. And then this year was Bitcoin Freedom Festival. And behind this compound, it's a very cool compound, there is a river. So essentially, like every half an hour, most people go to the river to cool down. So like essentially, all the talks move to the river. So everybody's just halfway up to here in this river chatting about Bitcoin. Is great.
People are just bathing in the river at this Bitcoin conference. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
And then
it's
you realize
to go back to normal conferences after this.
I'm sure.
So you realize midway through the talk, everybody's naked. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's definitely hippies who live in the compound too. Sometimes there is a few folks that are not part of the conference bathing in the river.
Nice.
Hey, here's a good first question. You're there. What's standing out to you from this conference? What's grabbed your attention since you've been down there?
For me, it was just the amazing thing. It happened exactly at Davos. So like all the lizards were freezing their asses off. Like and like a bunch of Bitcoiners sort of like at the beach. Like the contrast could not have been better.
Yep. Sometimes a picture speaks 1,000 words.
It's just, and you see Jamie Dimon shaking at the press conference thing, and we're like, I'm just like, can I have another coconut, please?
So, what's his angle? This is a good topic of exploration. Like listening to him talk in Davos, the clip that's been leaked going crazy, it's just sounding more and more asinine. I mean, I know he's been on these rants for a long period of time, but just overtly saying
dude,
that
like,
this thing is
classic Wall
useless.
Street, dude. No, this is classic Wall Street. The guy sandbags it and is buying it. You know, like
Yeah.
the guy is like literally shitting on it to buy cheap. Like there really isn't anything to it. Like he's just a classic Wall Street guy.
There just seems the consequences of having egg on your face seem more significant now, though.
No,
like all
these guys don't give a fuck. They're buying like like
They're lizards,
paintings
Dan.
and shit at the end of the day. No, dude, it's just money. They're just it's just making money. They don't give a shit if there's eggs on their face as long as they're making money.
Yeah.
These guys are like
I
very
mean,
low ego, very, very smart and like very high confidence. They do not give a flying fuck. They're just there saying the opposite and making money.
So I'm filling
All
in
right.
the blanks here, but in your mind, there's almost a zero probability that he doesn't know exactly what Bitcoin is, what purpose it serves, and the threat it
Absolutely.
potentially mounts.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys are not stupid.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy though.
I think we would be remiss not to dive into some technical stuff that Dan and I are tertiarily familiar with you right off the bat here. I listened to quite a few Bitcoin reviews before this episode, and you talked a little bit.
Survive to the middle, or
I know you talk a lot of shit about it, like about how you put your wife to sleep with it and all that, but I mean, a lot of it is above my head. But I mean, I took a lot out of this stuff too. I appreciate it. You do some good work with that. You talked about how Lightning cannot scale to like a Visa level transaction throughput. And like that was kind of back in like, when it was kind of formative in 2017, 2018, people talked about how that was kind of the end goal. Where did that kind of narrative
I've
change?
been saying that since before 2017.
Well, I mean, people were saying it then, and they, throughout the few years after that, they were. What exactly is the reason, without getting too technical for layman?
Yeah, so it's actually
terms,
very simple, right? Like, think about it this way. Okay, I'm oversimplifying, by the way. So
that's fine.
Think about it this way, right? So Lightning needs to clear on Bitcoin blocks,
right, at the base layer.
Mm-hmm. So you're essentially still bound by Bitcoin UTXO unit economics, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're still bound by Bitcoin block space, and you're still bound by Bitcoin UTXO price.
Right.
Yes.
And the fee price and everything else that comes with that dynamic, right? So
but theoretically,
that really is that simple. Like,
but the way I understand it in simple terms is that cost can be spread out over potentially thousands or tens of thousands of transactions, and thereby, you know what I mean? Because I mean, the simple.
Yeah, but it still needs to be cleared at some point.
Right.
Right.
And Lightning Tech is, in my opinion, overly complex. So, reality of it is like Lightning is for custodians.
Yeah.
So you see a third layer using Lightning, or do you see some other second layer altogether? What's your thought on that?
There were, in the early days of this stuff, of payment channels, right, which is the original name for this technology, there were like 50 papers, right? Like, I really wish they didn't go kumbaya and try to work together. I really wish, like, they try to make 5 options, completely unrelated, don't even fucking talk to each other. They hate each other ideally, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, like, we would have competing things with different trade-offs, right? Because we can still use Bitcoin as the clearing layer for all these technologies that maybe don't like each other, right? They're incompatible with each other. But I think we're going to see it, right? So there's the ARC stuff, but although the ARC, I think, needs CTV or something else. State chains can help, which is the Mercury layer stuff. Then there is all the colored coin shit that they can essentially like print coins with a single coin. There's the eCash stuff, like Fedi, Mint, and and Cashew. There's no, like, listen, demand is the mother of all the inventions here, right? So the problem is, like, it's a bunch of tech people right now trying to, like, work on the coolest shit and not address the market, right? So as we see demand truly happen, there's going to be a market. People be willing to pay for a solution, and then solutions happen. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think you make some really good points, though, and to go back to them, with Lightning. Like it suffers in high fee environments if you're wanting it to be used by the little guy. Things you mentioned already, UTXO economics. As fees go up, you've got to go back to the base chain, and it's going to increasingly push its utility towards large channels, big liquidity managers. And so to expect, I think that this gets to just a broader point about monetary technology in general. No matter how useful and important and wonderful it is, it's very, very unlikely, if not impossible, that one protocol, one solution can do everything. And I think there's a lot of people that were hoping this one second layer solution was sort of the silver bullet to solve all monetary use cases. Here's the question for you. And I know you've said some of this already. What purpose does Lightning really serve? And where is it useful? And then what is its main gap? And how do we fill that? And do we even need to do that right now? I guess is an even broader question.
So there's a bunch of things there. I think that the main thing to think about is this: like Lightning, it's quite good at being hub and spoke, right? So that means you have custodians, and they have users doing IOU inside their systems, right? Or even it could even be Lightning inside their systems, but like they're controlling both ends and everything else, right? So and then they clear with other Lightning providers, right? So for example, Strike is doing a great job, right? Like Cash App, or like all of these large sort of players, right? Like they can do very good Lightning because it is custodial. They can do all the liquidity, they can do all the shit. So it works decently.
Yeah. And in your view, this transitions to another topic, but I love that you explored this topic with Preston when you were on with him recently, where you basically expressed that store of value is Bitcoin's promise, and everything else stems from that. And I think for some Bitcoiners, that statement is a little bit provocative, but I think it's really powerful, and I think it's totally true. No, elaborate on that idea and what that means for second layers. Because at the end of the day, everything's subservient to this base layer being ironclad and this serving an immutable store of value purpose.
I mean, like when you invent something new, right? Like a new technology that really has not been seen by anyone ever, right? Like electricity, right? Like, everybody's gonna go out there in the market and try to figure out how to use this new cool shit, for fame, glory, money, and altruistically, right?
Yep.
But then eventually, sort of like a efficient, not necessarily efficient, but like a best purpose is found, right? For that thing, right? And because that thing is bound by its features and its trade-offs and its shortcomings, right? So, for example, like Bitcoin is not anonymous. Bitcoin is not fast. Like all these things. When you compare it to Visa payments, right? But Bitcoin is very fast compared to wire transfers and Fedwire and all this shit, right?
Yep.
So like you have to always think in terms of like there's a broad spectrum of things you're trying to solve, right? And like technology can only address a certain size of that problem range, right? Like very well. It might still be good enough for some other little parts of it, but like it can't be perfect for everything.
Right. You can't build a Swiss Army knife is what you're saying. You want to have some.
Yeah, exactly. A Swiss Army knife sucks at everything.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. But it's great to carry around. Right. But if you're building the best of something, right? Like the best knife, and even knives, like it depends on what kind of knife you're talking about, right? Like if you're building the best machete, it's a fucking best machete. Can you cut tomatoes with it? Yes. But it's not great to cutting tomatoes.
Right. Have you been paying attention the last few years? If so, you know one thing. Not your keys, not your coins. This is a quaint saying, but it's real. If you're not holding your seed keys, you have a Bitcoin IOU, not Bitcoin. Coinkite is the maker of the Coldcard Mark IV. This is the industry standard for holding the keys to your Bitcoin. Holding your keys should not be intimidating, and it isn't. The Mark IV makes this an incredibly simple process. You could be a degenerate firefighter and hold your own keys. That's how simple it is. If you want to create a more complex setup, the Coldcard Mark IV has you covered there as well. You can create a multi-sig using a Coldcard, a tap signer, and even the upcoming Q1. Speaking of the Q1, if you want to have every bell and whistle and give yourself no boundaries as far as interacting with Bitcoin is concerned, the Q1 is your signing device. Coinkite makes some of the most sought-after gear in Bitcoin: the block clock, seed plates, the open dime, and the Sats card. Everything you need to secure your Bitcoin. Use code BCB for 5% off the Mark IV.
This is what like a lot of, and I think this is like mostly like new Bitcoiners, like post 17 Bitcoiners kind of thing, that like are not just like maybe they're still like going through the motions of like understanding these dynamics, because like we had like money printing, and we had like different macro dynamics, you had different Bitcoin dynamics, and these dynamics, they change, right, as things happen in the world. So I really think that like when people not even people reflect, when Bitcoin reminds everybody with a nice slap in the face what is good for, right, like, and what is not good for, then you have to accept it, like, you know gravity exists, right? Like, you can't cheat gravity, and if you want to cheat gravity, you're gonna have to put you're gonna have to waste a lot of energy, right? Like, look at rockets. Look at the amount of fucking fuel that thing needs to burn,
Yeah.
in order to go up, right? So if you want to make Bitcoin do something that is not designed for, you're gonna have to spend a lot of something else.
Right. Yeah.
And that might be your marbles normally. The big blockers, they thought that Bitcoin was for payments, right? Like, and it's retarded because there is no amount of megabytes in blocks that will be enough
Right.
to make 4 billion people trading a Lati with each other at the same time.
Yeah. So on this topic of using Bitcoin as a Swiss Army knife, I listened recently just recently, What Bitcoin Did had Rizzo on to talk about ordinals, and it was called The Bullish Case for Ordinals. And I think he made the best case for the other side that I've ever heard, which I haven't really paid much attention to ordinals. It doesn't interest me much. And I think a lot of people in the space are in the same boat. They understand that this is affecting Bitcoin's transaction fees because a ton of transactions are happening that are not monetary in nature. They're ordinals or their BRC20, that kind of thing. And they are, filling this thing up with all kinds of transactions that wouldn't otherwise be there. They're using it as, a screwdriver instead of a knife in a certain way, if you want to look at it that way. But what he was describing is this is bringing Silicon Valley interest back into Bitcoin, because they have been deploying capital at a crazy rate to a lot of these other protocols that are doing a lot of the other things that people are interested in, including ordinals, inscriptions, and all of those types of things. But his reasoning is that a lot of this money, whether or not they like it, is coming back into Bitcoin, which is beneficial to Bitcoin in the long run. So what's your take on that perspective? Yeah. Using, like we said, we know Bitcoin is a store of value, monetary maximalist, which I would put myself in that camp, obviously, left of ordinals there, but I understand that argument, and that does make sense in some levels. What is your take on that?
So I love Rizzo. That argument is irrelevant, because see, like, Bitcoin is going to be what Bitcoin is going to be. We don't need Silicon Valley to get anywhere. What caused the money to come to Bitcoin is number go up.
Yeah.
Because number goes up, people would love to buy a top, right?
For sure. But I think his argument would be this is going to cause number to go up because it causes more use and it causes more transactions.
We don't need more VCs. We don't need more use. That's going to happen naturally as the price goes up, right? Because Bitcoin's value prop is store of value. Like, dude, like, these ETFs are like 1,000,000 times bigger than all these fucking VCs combined.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's driving demand for Bitcoin. It's not the fucking Silicon Valley VCs wanting to do, file storage and dick butt storage on Bitcoin. And by the way,
but if they can, they will.
Yeah, sure. Let them listen. If they want to give their money to Bitcoin miners, well, let them do it. The thing is, like,
I know I'm storing my dick butt on Bitcoin.
There you go.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like, the first of all, it's not the JPEGs that's driving fees up. Okay, that's a misconception. Okay, the JPEGs are lower economic density for their transaction, so the Bitcoin transactions that are actually worth money have less bytes and they get mined. But like, anyways, what was driving the fees really high was the BRC20 tokens,
Yeah.
which is a shitcoin on Bitcoin that has an extremely asymmetric value proposition, right? They're trying to move a single Bitcoin, well, really two Bitcoin transactions for 1 million of their token, right? And people were trying to front run each other on their ticker, and then that's why they were overpaying for mining fees. But anyways,
Okay.
aside from that, it's all fucking irrelevant. Like the VCs on Bitcoin are irrelevant. The so much so they're like, look, with the least amount of VC of all the coins, Bitcoin is the only one with an ETF.
Yep.
Bitcoin is the only one where it has the most amount of value in it. So,
Yeah.
like, tell
Yeah.
me,
I
tell me where
understand
in
that.
Bitcoin we need the VCs. We
Uh,
don't. That's
well,
it's a irrelevant narrative.
what about the idea that, I mean, we've talked about, or I'm not saying you've talked about this, but I've heard this talked about for years, that Bitcoin is going to subsume the entire crypto industry at some point. And this seems like a natural evolution
Again,
of that actually happening to a degree. You know what I
it's
mean?
irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's again, like, see, like, it's like trying to compare like gold with cash, like fiat, right? Like it's irrelevant. They're not comparable conversations. It has nothing to do with each other. The crypto shit they're trying to, like they definitely affinity scam Bitcoin by mentioning that they're a coin, that they're all do all these things, right? But it's completely irrelevant. Like Bitcoin is not trying to do any of that shit. People can try to do that stuff with Bitcoin, but it's like
I guess I have a hard time calling it irrelevant when it's obviously there's a lot of people with a lot of money that are causing a lot of transactions that want and feel that it's relevant. So
no,
I
it's
guess
it's relevant
I'm
in a local timestamp of like 2 weeks. Like like because Bitcoin liquidity is so small in a way, right? Whenever you have new waves of people doing whatever stupidity they're doing at
it's
that
all done on the
time come
margin,
in,
right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all done at the margin, right? So
Yep.
like think about it this way: do you really think U.S. thinks about El Salvador?
The
No.
politicians, no.
No. Not
No,
really at
like,
all. Yeah.
do you think an American politician, an American banker, an American, anything related to finance or really any topic,
No, I
okay,
don't think
even
so.
the tourism minister of whatever the fuck in the U.S., do you really think they wake up in the morning and think about El Salvador?
No.
No, right? Because it's irrelevant. It's economically irrelevant, right? So like the Bitcoin chain is kind of like that towards every other use. It's like it's irrelevant.
Yeah. I
You
think
know, can they cause news like El Salvador does? Yes. Right? Is it good for El Salvador? Yes. Is it good for Ethereum? Yes. But like, it's completely irrelevant to Bitcoin.
yeah. I
People
think
get
what
caught
you're
up because they want to argue about something on Twitter.
right.
Oh, they
What
do.
you
Yeah.
what you're pushing at is, I think it's a really important idea, which is that going back to fundamentals and asking what is driving demand for this thing and what has demand driving staying power in perpetuity. And that is store of value and potentially obsoleting or holding central banks accountable. Like that is what Bitcoin is most dramatically and obviously equipped to do.
There's not even accountability, man. The central bankers are just going to adopt the Bitcoin standard and that's it. They're going to survive too. Dude, all these fucking politicians are stacking. You think they're idiots?
Yeah.
Do you think the Fed guys are idiots? Like, everybody's stacking.
Right.
Everybody, like, talks the opposite of their bags. Right? Like Kramer probably too. He talks the
Oh,
opposite of his
for sure,
bags.
dude.
It's
I don't know how that guy does it, man. He
That dude's
nails it
got
though.
more Bitcoin than
exactly right.
all
Peter
of us
Schiff,
combined. Yeah.
like this is the thing, right? Like I think it's very presumptions of people to think their opinion matter. Like, you just have a thing that's based on math that gets validated around 10, 20 minutes, right? And it just keeps on going. And if number goes up, we win. If number goes down, we goes to zero. And like there really isn't much more to it. Like people just read into it because they have like seminars to sell, and You know, like, and that's it. Like,
Well, that is like there's like an ideology attached to everything, right? Because it's a human emotional thing to like, this is
yeah.
my thing. This is how it's going to be. This is how I view it. Therefore, it is this. But then, like you just described, this is just simply math. This is just something. This is
I
just a
mean,
program running. Like if it has the capability to do something, whether or not it's good at doing it, it can do it, and therefore you have to accept that. You can't
so
just
for
feel like
hundreds of
I don't
thousands
like
of
Ordinals.
years, for hundreds of thousands of years, right? The sun rises, humans go burn some babies, like chop some babies up, you know, in the hope that the sun comes back tomorrow, right? Like if they had just stopped
Just go
cutting the
see the
babies
Mayan
up,
ruins or something.
the sun would have come up. Just have a little patience. You know, like there is shit that's inevitable. Just chill. You know, this is the problem. It's like humans have to ascribe like like humans cannot cope with lack of power, right? Like we literally have no power over this shit, so we have to come up with some explanation, and
Yeah.
and then we go and we create a whole fucking order of things, right? And a priesthood with levels and shit, you know. But the sun is still gonna come back, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't, the universe is over. Great, you know, like it's gonna happen anyways.
You're right. There's going to be effort after effort after effort as this thing continues to march on for people to control it, commandeer it, morph it into their own desires and ambitions, and it just doesn't work. And it's a piece of technology that's rolling downhill, and nobody can really step in front of it. And so there's an element of where you just have to watch it and be in awe.
You know, and humans are very good at engineering, right? So like for example, then people are gonna say, yeah, but you know, people can affect the Bitcoin price. I'm like, yeah, people can also affect rain. You know, like you have rain cannons, right? In like in China, for example, and that causes the sun to maybe be covered. You know, like does that make the sun rise less? No, right? Like it's just it's like this inability to accept shit is just innately to humans, right?
Mm,
And it just causes people like a lot of stress, undue stress.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thought on what's going to go down here over the next few years? Let's put our prediction hat on a little bit. I mean, some people act too cool for this
We
ETF.
want numbers.
Like a lot of these, hardcore folk are like, oh, this doesn't matter. I mean, even to like pick a tiny bit on Lynn Alden, like she was on here last week saying this is the most boring thing in Bitcoin. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think it is. It's a huge fucking deal. If we talk about number go up, if we talk about store of value, if we talk about ease of entry for a lot of people, especially with the macro backdrop that we think is going to play out over the next 5 to 10 years, having the gates open to this thing, I think, is an enormous deal. And I think a lot of people in Wall Street are about to really understand what this asset's all about. I think a lot of people are sleeping on it. Oh, ETF started and look, the price went down and some faces are going to get ripped off. What's your take?
I have no idea. I mean, like you know, like the market is gonna do what the market is gonna do. Like you know, like absolutely no fucking clue what Bitcoin is gonna be 5 years. Could be zero. Um,
Could
but
be.
like you know, like
Yeah.
you know, but 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 you know, but like if you just try to extrapolate a few things, like I mean, e-
Do you guys have backup plans for the Mark IV to like sign into Windows or something, just in case that happens?
yeah, that's right. You know, no, it's gonna become a calculator. Uh, we turn into a calculator company. And no, but guys, like you know, first of all, Wall Street doesn't make money on Bitcoin, right? They're gonna make money making fees on imbeciles buying and selling Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Wall Street boys are there to take the pension fund money and make money on the money, not make money on the assets that the
Yeah.
pension funds are investing in, right? Like their goal is to front run all the idiots, right? uh, and and all these pension funds and all these things, they move slow. They're essentially all going to get priced in through time, right, before they're even sort of announced. You know, the people running these ETFs are not idiots. There's a lot of smart people
For
in Wall
sure.
Street. So like, but here's the thing: like, they don't like extreme volatility the same way we do, right? They want to make fees on basis points changes.
Hmm.
It's a lot more predictable. So, you know, it's great. I mean, like it's the only, you know, we're gonna probably be 10 times the size of gold, you know, not too far from now if we're not zero, right? And then like these things become even more irrelevant because like there is an expectation that like they're going to perform in certain ways because the bigger you are, the more mass you have, right? It's kind of like trying to steer a ship.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then like it's gonna get some punches in the gut because it's Bitcoin and it's out there and it's freedom money. So something's gonna happen and the price is gonna go down 70%, and the markets are gonna be very confused about it. It's gonna be
Yeah.
hilarious. And then the pension funds are gonna sell on the bottom, and then they're not gonna enjoy any of this appreciation. You don't know, man. It's you see like there is a million ways this can be sort of like played and the only answer is stay humble, sats, as Odell would say. Like you
Yep.
can't trade this shit.
I know. I agree. I've made enough mistakes to know that dollar cost averaging is the only way to do this properly. I want to just get back to one other technical thing with you before we move on to anything else, if you don't mind. CTV is something that's been talked about a lot here. I know it adds some capability. Can you describe some of so for people that don't know, it's check template verify. It allows parameters to be added to how Bitcoin can be spent, even if you control the keys. So
Yeah. So
can you
think about
explain
it
what
this
that
way.
means?
Yeah. So
What's that?
think about it this way. Right now, the conditions are on the span,
Right.
right? So
Mhm.
Yes.
you can say, for example, multi-sig, right? Like to span, I need to do this,
Right.
right? To span, it needs to be this block.
Okay.
Right? What CTV does and covenants in general as a concept does is it adds the script to the output, not to the input,
Okay.
right? Or both if you want to. But essentially now the UTXO itself is not going to be spendable unless some condition is met.
Right.
Bitcoin 2024 is moving to the heart of Bitcoin country, Nashville. Nashville just feels like the proper place for a Bitcoin conference. I can't guarantee we will be on main stage, or side stage, or even performing a puppet show. I can, however, say that we will be hanging out with the plebes, and if we have no obligations, we will very likely be getting drunk. Bitcoin Magazine is introducing a new event this spring, Bitcoin Asia. It's shaping up to be an unmissable experience. Stay tuned for more info. Whether you want to visit Bitcoin Asia or Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville, we have a coupon code for you. Use coupon code BCB for 10% off any ticket to either event. That's code BCB.
Super powerful. Super
Cool.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very simple change actually, which is kind of funny, but but it has a lot of consequences and things. So like you have to sort of study and sort it out, right?
Right.
I mean,
When you
in
say
all
it's very
honesty,
simple, do you mean like the code itself is very
yes,
simple? But
exactly.
the consequences could be myriad,
Ginormous. Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
like my personal opinion for whatever that's worth, it's like I think it's safe. I think it's being studied enough, so I'm okay with it. Um, and the only reason why I want CTV is because of Vault.
Right.
Okay, I don't
Can you
care.
explain that to people?
I
Because
rather not change Bitcoin if I'm not getting Vault. That's my selfish node sort of like motif. So Vault is another opcode. Was one of the main reasons why CTV came back into the forefront as like and is being also studied to death. And there's like a lot of code for it as well. It's an opcode that's a little bit more complex. It doesn't add many sort of like I wouldn't worry in terms of like consequences to Bitcoin in terms of like risk on things, but
Mhm.
it's really cool. Imagine you can have an automated cold card on chain. So maybe Upvault done well could essentially make no need for cold card to exist anymore. So I can finally go focus on clocks only.
Hell
Seriously,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it really is that amazing, right? Like we can build very good spend policies primitives on with this tool that then like for example like a bad guy can't spend your coins.
Right.
He can maybe steal a tiny little bit, but you'd be able to see it because there is watchtowers and things. So like
Okay.
essentially like it improves our on-chain safety like by a factor of like 1,000. Like, it's amazing. And that's my selfish motivation for CTV. Is CTV good for, like improving lightning a little bit? Probably. Can CTV, cure cancer? Maybe. Like there's a bunch of angles people are going to take with CTV. They all have their own selfish incentives. I don't care much for those as much as I care for Vault.
Talk to our audience about like the 2 or 3 most practical applications that you think people would use if we did this upgrade. Like one thing that comes to mind for me, I know, is like you could specify that something can only be sent to a certain transaction, for example, or to a certain address, for example.
That's
What
right.
what are some other things like that you see being implemented the most if we did this upgrade?
So if we get introspection, which is unclear yet, that means, for example, I could say to this coin, to this UTXO, that it can only, say, for example, you can only spend from this vault 1 BTC every month.
Yep.
Unless you use this nuclear key to overwrite stuff and get the funds out to another vault. And you can make it so that the nuclear key can't even take the money out anywhere arbitrarily. You can make it so that this nuclear key to bypass the vault because maybe you made a mistake can only go to another vault.
Yeah.
Sounds like
And
you
for
could.
example, yeah. So, for example, let's say now we can enforce inheritance on chain.
That's a cool
So,
idea.
so you can say, for example, to your kids, listen, I died in a little video, and there is this vault, and this vault is only going to pay you this amount of money per year, and that's it, buddy.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's going to be on to your grandchildren. You could do weird shit like that, right? And even if the law says otherwise, there's nothing that can break that because it's on chain.
Right.
Obviously,
you
you
state
can
lawyers in a funk.
With more options. Anytime you're moving or custodying Bitcoin, you have to be careful not to step in front of yourself. But there are a lot of things about this that are appetizing from just a security peace of mind standpoint. Like you were saying, putting specifications on, say, where Bitcoin can go. You can't just, you can set parameters such that this Bitcoin can't just be whisked off anywhere someone wants. Like that's very powerful and very useful. Yeah.
Because that's already possible now. But that's possible now with arbitrary business logic in, say, a Coldcard or, your Waller coordinator or whatever the fuck, right? Where we make this solid is to do this rules on chain. Like, it's a whole other dynamic now, right? Like, it's unbreakable the same way Bitcoin is unbreakable. If somebody can break those policies, it means they can break Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. So I know this question is basically unanswerable, but what are some of the positions against this? Like why would people not be? Is it just because of unforeseen consequences that people are typically against this?
Like, like every dev has their own proposal in the way that they want, right? Like, like it becomes an autism competition towards like however people want to do their own thing. We're all autistic. Come on, like it's just let's be honest, right?
It's all a matter of degree. Not fact.
Right, and then there is, not built here kind of syndrome. Like there's all kinds of stuff. I have not heard a decent sort of like, when people really want to cop out from the conversation, they just it hasn't been studied enough. Like okay.
And this has been this was submitted years ago, right? This isn't like a relatively new thing. Like from my understanding, this code was written years ago. It's been looked at for years at this point.
Yeah, but like. Nothing is without trade-offs, right? So like I'm sure there will be some consequences that are unforeseen, and maybe you get some more dick butts on something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like a third layer of dick butts. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like either gonna happen, maybe it doesn't happen. I you can't depend on it. I can just say I like it. I think it's good. I think it's steady enough, and I think it will be a huge addition to the mission, because the mission is like store of value. So like if we can make store of value to be safe from other people storing your value, then great.
Yeah. Yep. If this does get implemented, what do you think the timeline is? And then practically, how does this get rolled out and implemented?
Well, then it gets into the next bike shed autistic competition, which is, how do you activate something?
Yeah.
That we haven't agreed on something yet. And it's going to probably take years, unless there's a very successful user activated soft fork, which I think it's too soon. I think it could take years, and that's the right thing to do. When people don't agree in Bitcoin, nothing happens. It's the perfect path.
Yep. I mean, we've all seen the opposite of what happens when politicians can just pull levers immediately and, fuck all the truckers over. That's
Yep.
really interesting to see what came out of that recently.
I think also people are gonna have a lot of people who are new, especially people who are post UASF of the original days. I think people are gonna sort of like get a rude awakening at how massive Bitcoin is, how plutocratic Bitcoin is, how unfair it will seem to them, how undemocratic it is. It's and how meritocratic it is. It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting.
Let's talk a little bit about what's going on at Coinkite. Q1 is in. We're
Q.
excited.
We renamed it to Q. People are getting confused.
Q
That's
only.
right.
Strong.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to us about.
Are you guys being Star
QV1.
Trek fans over there?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. Just wondering if that came from Star Trek.
Yeah,
at
and
all.
it's also for QWERTY.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, no, like Q is almost ready. It's hardware always punches you in the gut. Like you order the plastic is right, and then they fucking make it wrong, and then now it just adds an extra month, and they're sending you, dude, it's like I've been ready to ship for a while now. It's just like the normal sort of dealing with physical world problems.
Yeah.
But we're very close now. Very, very close. There's just one milestone that needs to happen before I'm comfortable saying like, hey, it's imminent kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's gonna have password manager. It's gonna have secure nodes. All kinds of great shit.
Very cool.
You
So I'm reading the Elon Musk bio right now, and one of the things he's said over and over is that designing the thing is easy. It's designing the thing that builds the thing that is really difficult. Is that it sounds like you're experiencing that same
Yeah,
quandary.
it's the normal thing, right? Like, I mean, manufacturing is always the bottleneck, right? It's easy for the DIY kids to say, "Oh, look at this cool shit I did," and then but you can't turn that into a product. You can't mass market the thing. The thing is never going to be as good as a commercial product. It's not. It's like the level of the universe sort of molding the final thing, which really makes it a remarkable thing, is much higher, right? That's the bar. And then you launch something, and then people find the issues with it, and then you fix it in subsequent sort of like versions. That's the path of products, right?
Mhm.
That's why it's fun.
Yeah, if
Josh,
you
it's
want to send
crazy.
us
I
a
was
couple
about
of
to.
like early beta models, we'll gladly fuck around with them for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like as soon as we have units that like we think are like ready to be started to be shipped out to people, we're gonna do that.
Cool.
It's crazy you came out with that Elon comment because I literally was about to come with that. Him just talking about how creating the thing is like anyone can do that, and it's the manufacturing process. Take us behind the doors a little bit about what manufacturing at your company looks like. Is it out of one facility, multiple facilities? What have been some of the biggest challenges standing up this company? Because obviously you created something beneficial, but then you've been able to manufacture it and put it out in large quantities. Take us behind the doors of running this business from a production
we
lens.
don't talk much about the internals because of one is alpha and two is security. But it's like what we make is not that complex to be honest, right? I mean, compared to consumer electronics, right? What is different to us is the level of security that goes into things. But like the whole design of the product is designed for manufacturing, right? So like how we do the security of the device is designed for manufacturing. Not trusting the chips is because there was the limitation of the manufacturing, right? And then we have to make jigs that test buttons and and jigs that test like things and QA and testing is a huge part of the problem, right? And Yeah, it's funny. Like you really have to change the product in order to meet the manufacturing processes, right? And also like you keep on changing manufacturing processes to meet and there's like an equilibrium that starts to happen in each part of it.
Yeah. The first time you built a Coldcard, so back in the day, like when you first did this, There had to have been a time when this took a huge outlay of cash, right? You have to stand up manufacturing when you're not 100% sure this thing's going to succeed. What was that like going from the 0 to 1 moment when you were going to send it and you had to just go? Like that's got to be the time in every
your dick out on
entrepreneur's
the
life
chopping block. Yeah.
when it's got to be the most scary.
It's really funny because like, so we used to have like this essentially like online wallet, right? Coinkite was Big Go before Big Go. And we were the back end of all these exchanges, and that's how we had our funds. And then we didn't want to do that anymore because we don't want to hold people's bags. So we told everybody to get their money out, and we closed it. And then we were confronted with this problem of
Wait,
like,
how long did you think about taking the money and running?
it was not part of our model. We're idiots. So we were the back end for BitMEX for a while. So anyway, so like we were confronted with this reality. It's like, there were two products on the market that were like of starting to be of size at that time, which was we looked at them closely. We're like, yeah, no, there's no fucking way we're gonna put our coins in them. so then like we sort of like started developing completely for ourselves. Like it's not like a product for anybody else, and it was going to be caseless. And we sort of kind of built them, and a lot of people wanted them. So we started sort of like, okay, fine, let's sort of productize that a little bit more, right? It was sort of like very sort of like grassroots and very sort of garage style.
Yeah.
And we just sort of like slowly sort of grew manufacturing, and I think the dick on the table was not in terms of like uh in terms of like us putting up capital to grow the company. It was more like in terms of like making a thing that we trust with our capital, which
Yeah.
is a lot more scary.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like how the company sort of happened, right? Like in terms of pivoting that way. We had open dimes already and stuff at the time, but it was not designed for this level of seriousness of like and this is the reason why we also like ship new hardware like pretty much every couple years, right? It's because like it's not that we're trying to take people's sats, which is great, but like this stuff needs to be improved because we
Yeah.
found new ways of doing things, new ways of like improving things, and we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And if you want to still buy 10-year-old hardware, go get yourself a Trezor.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do that. Like that's not what we do.
If you had to pick one reason why Coinkite has been successful on the scale it has and gained its reputation, right? You zoom out on what you've built. What is that one reason? What do you think is if you had to pick one thing about why it's been as successful as it has, what is that?
I think it's just like it's like a good product. Like it's like it's dog fooding, right? Like we built it for our piles, right? Like so it's just it works.
Yeah. What is up, folks? It's Dan here, and I'm going to take just a quick moment to talk to you about where Josh and I buy our Bitcoin, and that is at Swan Bitcoin. The two of us have now been dollar cost averaging on Swan for years, and here's why. It's user-friendly. The fees are low and transparent. Withdrawals are absolutely free. They offer attentive expert service, and Swan has a full suite of financial services, including an IRA product where you can roll a traditional or a Roth IRA into Bitcoin, Swan Private for high net worth individuals, and coming soon, Swan Vault for collaborative custody. In our view, Swan just gets it. They're focused on Bitcoin only. They provide really solid and ongoing education, and they strongly encourage self-custody. Maybe most importantly, it's low friction. Setting up and accessing a Swan account is so easy that it's boomer and firefighter proof. Keep that stack thick. That's THIC, no K at the end, at swan.com. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things. Well, maybe that's not true in this arena, but there are so many things that are great ideas that work that just never get off the launch pad. You know what I mean?
It's necessity, right? Like people have the necessity of storing their sats, right? And there just isn't anything on the market, in my opinion, that gets even close to it. They go out there and they put rose gold on it, like that's gonna somehow make it nice, or they like, make it easier to use with USB, but everybody's making the wrong trade-offs for people who really give a shit about their pile.
Yeah.
Like it's like a no apologies sort of like mindset, right? We make the trade-off in terms of like, yes, maybe it's like, I don't know, in my opinion it's pretty, but like it's less pretty than something, or like it doesn't have this one thing that makes it a little easier to use. Yeah, because those trade-offs like make you lose money.
Yeah.
And we're not going to make those trade-offs, like, and it really is a no. Like, is Coinkite going to have an app for Coldcard? No.
Yeah. Hey,
Like,
this
are
question
we
I
going
wanted
to
to ask
lose
you
a
kind of
lot
slipped
of
through the.
yeah.
Yeah, so this one kind of slipped through the cracks, and I wanted to make sure I asked this. You were talking about safe security deposit boxes on Bitcoin Review, and you said probably not the best idea to store seed material there.
Absolutely.
So, and then you mentioned using potentially seed XOR to split that key. So people listening don't know what that is. You can basically take your 24 words and you can have the cold card split it into two separate groups of words, which are unrelated to the originals, and then you can store those in two separate places, thereby getting yourself a little extra security.
Yeah.
Great feature.
But you have the trade-off of you need both. If you don't have both, you're fucked.
Yeah, but you can also go and cement bury, the original seed somewhere else that is completely inaccessible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Unless it truly push comes to shove. Hi.
I guess
The kids.
the question, I think a lot of people, not that I view security deposit boxes as the end all be all of like a good place, but on the hierarchy of places that are good in the world that seem relative, I mean, as long as you don't have these things unsealed in there, do you believe that security deposit boxes are a fairly decent stopgap, or is that just a total non-starter?
So
in your
here's
view?
the problem, okay? And this only existed after Bitcoin. If somebody sees your secret, they don't need to take it. If somebody sees your secret, they can
Right.
at any point in time from there on take it away from you. Remember, there is no law protecting your safe deposit box from the FBI going to the bank and saying there was a bomb threat. We have to look into the boxes, and then that agent goes and takes a picture of it.
Yep.
And then 20 years from now, he goes and money gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So
Right.
like you can't. This is one of the reasons why it really annoys me when all the DIY kids go and have a QR code for their single sig at home for their seeds, right? Because and QR codes are designed for computers to see the secret or the information under the worst possible conditions. So like if your computer screen accidentally sees that seed, right? Like money gone. So
Yeah.
like we really need to have like high hygiene kind of thinking when it comes to this stuff, because one little mistake could make all your money disappear, right?
Right. Low
So
entropy, any of that.
yeah, I mean, like, look, all the like a lot of the guys, a lot of the cops who were involved in the Silk Road all got rich, right? I wonder how.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, a lot of this comes back to the basics. Like the longer we've been doing self-custody, you get ideas, you try things, you experiment, and then you go, no, the simpler option actually really makes a lot of sense. I like to ask you this every time you come on here. When your non-techie aunt comes up to you and says, how should I custody this Bitcoin that I've just accumulated that you've been barking about for years? What's your answer to the person listening that's like, I don't know half the words you guys have thrown out in this episode. What the fuck should I do with my stack that's sitting on an exchange? What's your go-to answer? And just cold card, single sig, wired setup for the non-techie person? Or what's your thought there?
For some of them might be for some of them, it just take custody for them. It's easier. For because the explanation over their $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, like I have more shit to do, that like try to get you there. It's like, but I do tell every single one of them to get a phone app, set up a seed, back up that seed, and go play with $100 worth of Bitcoin self custody. Right, and then they just feel comfortable eventually just fucking do it themselves, right?
Totally.
But until then, yeah, like plus like for some of them the answer is go buy the ETF.
Yeah.
Like seriously, it's just so be it. Like so like a lot of people are just not ready for their responsibility, or they're just too old, they're gonna die anyways before it makes any difference.
Yeah. I mean, some people aren't capable. Like this is where Bitcoin just demands something from everyone. Like you can't completely do this for everyone. So if you can see it in their eyes when you're explaining to them that this person has zero chance of this clicking, then maybe it's not
give
time.
them open dimes. Like here, just put it here. Is there a chance that they rack the open dime with $1,000 in it? Yes, but like the chance of them losing their keys are much higher. So, because before Open Dimes used to give them paper wallets, right? But then, like, they all fucking, like, burn, wet, or destroy their paper wallets somehow. That's how Open Dime, like, came to exist. And now I just do that with Sats cards. It's like, I just load the Sats card, I was like, here. Or actually, even better, like, for some now, is the tap signer with the nunchuck. Because then it backs up the seed for them. And then that's it. Like, they're reasonably safe. Who cares? They're starting like between like $1,000, $5,000 worth of coins. So be it.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're
like, let them get comfortable on their own.
If you're using an SD card to back up, say, a wallet configuration file, what kind of hygiene do you need to be aware of? Like, how often should you be like getting a new one, copying that file on there? Like, how long can you expect an SD card to last?
Yeah. So if you're buying the SD cards from us, we're selling like proper industrial grade micro SD cards. Do you have ratings? Should you trust them? No, but like at least like there is a better sort of chance there. And I recommend writing 3 times to each card. So maybe make 2 cards, right? Stuff those encrypted cards somewhere else, and you can use the same secret for both. Um, and you can keep them together, kind of thing too. So like it's just higher. It just increases your chance of recoverability. And remember, the SD card backup is for high availability, right? So that you don't have to go and break the cement under that mountain where you have your actual seed.
Yeah.
In case your cold card breaks, or at least like have 2 cold cards cloned around, so because you might need to spend, and going to touch your seed should be a key, what we call key ceremony, right? Like another reason why like the security practices of having your seed around are idiotic, right? Like Seed Signer does, right? Like don't do that unless it's multi-sig. Don't have the seed around. It's bad. Because every time you touch your seed, your seed, you're inviting violence, and you have risk of licking it.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is known in the security industry for like decades. Like this is not a new thing. Like, like you're just reinventing the wheel with bad practices.
It's basically less touching, less risk. More touching,
right?
more
like,
risk.
If you keep on touching it, you're gonna get chlamydia.
Don't edge yourself. don't edge yourself. You might complete.
Yes, because like the meat in the middle, right? Like the human is often the security flaw on the whole system.
Totally.
The meat in the middle.
Watch the meat in the middle.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a lot of really practical things there. Maybe people don't like the answers.
Yeah,
but it's realistic. Like not. And we've been saying this a long time about Coldcard, but you alluded a second ago to the fact that you're gonna have people going to Sparrow, going other places, right? You're not gonna stand up a go-between. And that goes back to people taking ownership and having some degree of understanding of what this process is. Like if cold storage is not for people that have no clue what's happening. And you need to take a few, even just very basic steps. If we go most basic configuration of a cold card, to accomplish that, people at least understand how to interact with Bitcoin, what a UTXO is. They go through a few steps to where they fully, maybe not fully, but at least partially understand what they're stepping into. And it allows them to make a better decision about whether that's for them. And if somebody says, and we get these DMs and emails a fair amount about cold cards, if someone says this is flat out too confusing for me, step 1, try to help them. But if they're just incapable of walking through those hoops,
it's not for them.
Then that's not for them. Totally.
It's not for them. It's okay. It's okay that like, there is more solutions out there. Like for example, like Trezor, like, uses USB and it has all the shit coins that it requires like, and you use it with their suite, right? And then what happens is, and then they tell you to type in your passphrase on the computer, right, in order to go to the Trezor. But then what happens? You have your email as a company hacked, like it happened to them, right? And then like the bad guys go and send phishing emails for people to type their seeds on the computer to give to them. But you as a company just taught everybody to type their passphrases on the computer. So these
Yeah.
people are going to believe. Like, it's like, of course, like, you know that these things are going to happen. The incentives are towards that because there's a lot of money to be made, you know, with this stuff. So, you know, when we, especially me on Twitter, shit on this other solutions, it's not out of bad faith or like just, you know, trying to win up over a competitor or whatever. It's just that, like, you know, these are bad practices and people are going to lose money with them. Like, you know, do they give you more market? Yes. You know, like if I add shitcoins to Coldcard, it will grow 10x the next day, right? Like if we add a suite that sells shitcoins to you directly to your hardware wallet on your computer, you know, do we double our size? Yes, right? But like these are terrible fucking trade-offs, and then you have to have a gigantic marketing department that just deals with the shit that you have to deal with every time you get on in one of these things, right? Uh, these are just different decisions and different trade-offs that companies make, you know, but they do have consequences.
Should we
MBK?
close with a little? Wait, I want to get quick AI thoughts because I know you've spent a decent amount of time on this. You've built your own LLMs, this Unleash.chat. What is Unleash.chat? What are your general thoughts on AI? Hit us with a closer there.
It's further than we think it is, but it's not as far as we think it is. You know, like it's very, very useful, but the glue to start replacing people is not quite there yet. But we will. Like, I mean, like you're gonna see like half companies managers being fired very soon because it's completely necessary. They're very, very helpful tools to augment humans. They're not replacing humans yet. Uh, and I mean, Unleashed is essentially like you can with one button click sort of like run open source LLM models. So there's like three options there,
Cool
and
as
it has
hell.
privacy. So like you're not like just giving all your data to OpenAI, and it's Bitcoin native, right? So you can pay with Sats. And another cool thing is you can upload your own data, and we teach the AI your data so that you can ask questions about your data. And you can ask about NOSTR like you do with Grok on Twitter. And we're gonna keep on adding stuff. Like again, like you know, it was dog footing, right? Like I'm like, okay, I wanna ask all these things about our our sales like numbers and all of our accounting shit and like and our docs and stuff, and I don't want to give all those questions and data to OpenAI. So
Right.
that's where it was born.
Yeah. The
It's incredible
origins of
stuff.
good products, useful for yourself, and then it's going to be useful for others.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta go full Ayn Rand on this kind of shit. Like it's objectivism there really works.
Yeah. All right, we're going to let you go, my friend. It looks incredible where you're at, by the way. I'm jealous
Yeah.
as hell.
Costa Rica is special. People should go here.
You bring the whole
Yeah.
family
Plan to
down?
at some point.
Yeah, but like like it's yeah.
Appreciate you, brother. Seriously, these are always
thanks for your
fun
time.
every single time you come on. Thanks for
Hey
dedicating the
man,
time.
thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
It's fun. Yeah, you guys doing the serious stuff like saving people's and shit.
I'm saving people in Mexico now too.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Take care, brother.